Good morning. Good morning. This is RCB News, and I am Ryan Bowling. In my book introduction, I wanted to introduce a book to you guys that some of you may or may not know of or may already have. And it's written by a very prominent, well known man by the name of Thomas Sowell, an economist, an African American economist. And the book is entitled Discriminations and Disparities. Discriminations and Disparities. All right. And this book is awesome. I brought this book back about close to about 6 or 7 months ago. It was written in 2019, and I purchased it. As a matter of fact, I have quite a few of his books, Thomas Sowell's books. One of the most intelligent men I've ever read in terms of his books. The way he talks, this man is just my goodness. He has a brain. But basically, in summation, this book is essentially about the idea that the left constantly pushes, which is, or at least one of the talking points that they constantly push, which is this idea that people who have less than other groups of people, particularly whites, is because of racial discrimination. And that the disparities, which has to do with unequal outcomes, is simply because somebody else is holding that group back. And in this book, Thomas Sowell argues against that idea that discrimination, number one, is not always based on race, and that disparities or unequal outcomes are not always based on race. He's not saying that racial factors are not a situation in it. That's not what he's saying in his book. His argument is saying let's bring a even platform here. Everything is not based on race, and it is disturbing to me personally when the liberals push this idea. Because to be quite frank with you, I don't believe most of them believe what they say. They get paid to push this idea, which always keeps blacks and whites and other racial groups in this country divided. But it's disturbing to me because it just aggravates the heck out of me. But Thomas Sowell lays this out really well in his book, Discrimination and Disparities. I really advise you guys get this book, buy it, invest some money in it. It's revised in a large edition. And I wanted to read a section out of this book, a couple of 2 or 3 paragraphs out of this book to bring a point that he mentions here. And I want to talk on it and give my own spin on it as well. But it's on page 3, and the title of the chapter is Disparities and Prerequisites. Disparities and Prerequisites. Prerequisites basically is, excuse me, talents and abilities that a person has already, or rather certain benefits that a person has already that helps to contribute to their educational accomplishments or anything they're trying to accomplish at that point. These are prerequisites. These are things you already have that helps catapult you in terms of your IQ or your ability to make money or whatever the case may be. That's what he means by prerequisites. Now listen, this is what he says on page 3 of the chapter. He says, back in the early 20th century, for example, Professor Lewis M. Terman of Stanford University launched a research project that followed 1,470 people with IQs of 140 and above for more than half a century. It's a long time. Data on the careers of men in this group from an era when full-time careers for women were less common showed serious disparities even within this rare group. Now, these were people who had high IQs, but there was disparities within it. All of them didn't get the same outcome. Why? Was somebody holding them back? We're going to read further. It says showed serious disparities even within this rare group, all of whom had IQs within the top 1%. Some of these men had highly successful careers, others had more modest achievements, and about 20% were clearly disappointments. Of 150 men in this least successful category, only 8 received a graduate degree, and dozens of them received only a high school diploma. Really? 8 received graduate degrees, and dozens of them received only a high school diploma. Was somebody holding them back? They had the same IQ level. Who was holding them back? Was it a racial group holding them back? Well, was it a white person, a black person? Thomas Sowell knows he doesn't mention the race of these individuals. It could have been black or white, we don't know. But let's assume they were all black. But they had all the same level of IQ. These were intelligent black men, or whatever the case may be, assuming they were black in terms of this data. Well, who was holding them back? You had 8 that received graduate degrees, and dozens of them received only a high school diploma. So if they were black, who was holding them back? They had the same intelligence. They could have gotten the same outcome, but they didn't. I'm going to read further. A similar number of the most successful men in Thomas' group received 98 graduate degrees, more than a tenfold disparity among men who were all in the top 1% in IQ. Meanwhile, 2 men who were tested in childhood and who failed to make the 140 IQ cutoff level later earned, get this now, excuse me, drink a little orange juice here. Love orange juice. Listen to this. Meanwhile, 2 men who were tested in childhood and who failed to make the 140 IQ cutoff level later earned Nobel Prizes in physics. Oh, really? They weren't even that smart. And they learned, wait, what? Are you kidding? He says, while none of these men with IQs of 140 and above received a Nobel Prize in any field. I'm making my comment. Who was holding them back? They didn't receive any Nobel Prizes in physics. But these other men did, and they didn't have the same IQ level. Okay. Clearly then, all the men in Thomas' group had at least one prerequisite for that extraordinary achievement, namely a high enough IQ. And equally clearly, there must have been other prerequisites that none of the hundreds of these men with IQs in the top 1% had. He goes on to say, as for factors behind differences in educational and career outcomes within Thomas' group, the biggest differing factor was in family backgrounds. Men with the most outstanding achievements came from middle class and upper class families and were raised in homes where there were many books. Get that, that's important. Half of their fathers were college graduates at a time when that was far more rare than today. Among those men who were least successful, nearly 1/3 had a parent who had dropped out of school before the 8th grade. Even extraordinary IQs did not eliminate the need for other prerequisites. In other words, you can have the highest IQ and still be a failure in life. On the flip side of that, you can have a low IQ and be a successful person. It's based on, as Thomas Sowell says, prerequisites, certain qualities that you may have had that help bring out a better outcome for you. And what liberals try to push, these liberal politicians are trying to push, and these liberal bureaucrats and liberal school administrators are trying to say, we want everybody to have the same outcome. Doesn't matter how little of an education you have or how high your education is. We want everybody to have the same amount of money, same amount of outcome. That's stupid. That's stupid. You can't do that. Everybody, and you can't do that because I'm piggybacking off something that Thomas Sowell said in another book. You can't do that because everybody is different. Everybody has different abilities. Everybody has different strengths. Everybody has different weaknesses. So you can't do that. You can't pigeonhole everybody in the same box. You can't do that. So that's just, I just want to read that section out of the book right there. Discrimination and Disparities. If you don't have it, I highly advise that you get it. It's a good book to help you have a plausible argument with someone who is on the liberal side. Honestly, I hate arguing with them. I just don't like arguing with them. I don't like arguing, period. I get very angry when people just ignore just actual facts in your face. They ignore it. And they still hold on to an ideology that's only keeping us more and more divided. But, you know, that's what it's all about, man. We have to be the ones to put forth the effort. You know, if If we don't pick up a book and read and educate ourselves, we can't blame no one else on that but ourselves. I was talking to one of my coworkers. Me and him have a lot of good conversations, and the other day, and we were talking about how that really a vast majority of the things that people suffer from, not all the time, but a vast majority of the things that people suffer from or deal with is from their own choices that they made and should not have made, and choices that they should have made and didn't make. Basically, we reap the consequences of our choices and our inability to choose the right course of action that will bring the right outcome for our lives. I mean, hey, I've had bad situations in my own life. You know, I've made bad choices in my own life, and I wish I had made better choices in the past that would have brought out a better outcome for me, at least to some extent. But I can't get mad at anybody. I can't get mad at God. I can't get mad at my ex. I can't get mad at this person. Look, I'm the one did it. But you know what? That's all good. Because as long as I have breath in my body, God has given me an opportunity to better my life. And I hope and pray that the videos that I make, I help encourage and motivate others to do the same thing. Doesn't matter how old you are. Doesn't matter what status you are in life. You can be whatever you want to be in this country. You can be whatever you want to be. So you guys, if you like this video, press the like button, give your comments, share this video, and hey, look, man, let's do this. Let's do this. God bless you and have a great day. I'll see you again on RCB News.